When Adolf Hitler died in April 1945, the world thought that with him, every trace of his power would be extinguished. But something did not die in the Berlin bunker. A secret that had grown in silence for decades. A colossal, hidden, and untouchable fortune valued at over 700 million Reichsmarks, the equivalent of more than 5 billion current dollars. How is it possible that a man who started his adult life sleeping in homeless shelters, selling cheap postcards to avoid starving, ended up accumulating one of the greatest personal fortunes of his time? How did that failed artist transform himself into a millionaire, an art collector, a man surrounded by luxury while preaching sacrifice to the German people? And most disturbingly, what happened to that immense wealth after his death? Before we delve into this story full of contradictions, ambition, and shadows, I want to invite you, if you're passionate about discovering the lesser-known secrets of World War II, to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. This way, you won't miss any of our next videos where we unravel the hidden history behind major events. Adolf Hitler was born in 1889 in Braunau am Inn, Austria, the son of a customs official named Alois Hitler. The family had a certain middle-class stability, nothing luxurious but secure. From a young age, Adolf defied his father's wishes. While Alois wanted him to pursue a serious career, he dreamed of being an artist. That dream, however, was abruptly shattered in 1907 when the Academy of Fine Arts in Vienna rejected his application. It wasn't just once. There were 2 rejections, devastating blows for a young man with no alternative plan. Without studies, without a stable job, and with only a small orphan's pension, Hitler found himself trapped in poverty. His day-to-day life became a struggle for survival. He slept in homeless shelters, spent entire nights shivering in dirty, crowded dormitories, surrounded by outcasts, the unemployed, and addicts. During the day, he sold hand-painted postcards, shoveled snow, carried luggage at stations, or offered himself for any task that would earn him a few coins. There were days when he got absolutely nothing to eat. There, in the dark corridors of the shelters, he discovered a poison that would mark his future: newspapers and pamphlets filled with anti-Semitism. His frustration, his rage, and his resentment found in those texts an easy culprit for his misery. In 1913, with a small inheritance of 820 crowns, he escaped Vienna for Munich. He believed his artistic destiny could still be revived, but the course of his life was about to change forever. From a failure to a millionaire writer. After World War I, Hitler became the leader of a small but noisy movement. And in 1923, after the failed beer hall putsch, he was imprisoned in Landsberg. Many would have seen prison as the end. He turned it into a beginning. From his cell, he dictated the pages of a book to Rudolf Hess that would be both his propaganda and his ticket to wealth: Mein Kampf, a mix of memoirs, ideology, and delusions that initially went unnoticed. Bookstores wouldn't sell it, and critics ridiculed it. But the economic crisis of 1929 changed everything. When unemployment and despair dragged millions of Germans to the brink, radical ideas began to sound seductive. And with every electoral success of the Nazi Party, sales of Mein Kampf grew. By 1933, the book was almost mandatory. It was given as a gift to newlyweds, distributed in schools, and handed out in public offices. Between 1925 and 1933, Hitler earned over 1.2 million Reichsmarks in royalties, the equivalent of millions of dollars today. The text, which began as an editorial failure, ended up becoming a multi-million-dollar business and a massive ideological weapon. The man who, years before, painted postcards for a few coins could now finance an entire political movement. The man who paid no taxes. With so much money coming in, there was an inevitable problem: taxes. But Hitler never paid them. In 1932, tax authorities in Munich investigated and discovered he owed a huge sum. Over 400,000 Reichsmarks, millions in today's money. A common German would have ended up in prison. Hitler? He simply ordered himself to be declared tax-exempt. A decree placed him above the law. From that moment on, all his earnings, royalties, salaries, donations were tax-free. His wealth grew while millions of impoverished citizens were punished even for small tax offenses. Hitler had not just gained money, he had gained impunity. The Führer's luxuries. With unlimited and tax-free money, he began to transform his life. The Berghof in the Bavarian Alps went from a modest cabin to a luxurious residence with panoramic views, conference rooms, and guest quarters for distinguished visitors. There, he dined on exquisite dishes, surrounded by servants, while asking Germans for sacrifice in the name of the Reich. For his 50th birthday, he was gifted the famous Eagle's Nest, a mountain retreat inaccessible except by an elevator inside the rock. Officially, it was a state construction. In reality, it was a monument to his ego. Art became his obsession. Jewish collectors were forced to sell their masterpieces for ridiculous prices, or they were simply seized. All were destined for his dreamed-of Führer Museum in Linz, which never came to exist. Armored Mercedes-Benz cars, custom-made clothes, luxury wines. His life became a parade of excess, often financed with public money, forced donations, and plunder. The shadowy money. But Hitler was not naive. He knew that power could be lost. That's why he moved large amounts of money and assets to Switzerland, protected by its legendary banking secrecy. Part of that wealth was lost forever among closed accounts, destroyed documents, and handlers who disappeared in the chaos at the end of the war. His administrator, Max Amann, coordinated royalties from Mein Kampf, salaries, donations, and even image rights on postage stamps. Even foreign publishers, such as American and British ones, paid royalties until the outbreak of the war cut off shipments. Diversification was his strategy. Cash, stolen art, properties, investments in metals, and real estate. A financial network designed not just to enrich him, but to ensure a plan B in case of defeat. The end and the disappearance of the fortune. When Germany collapsed in 1945, the Allied forces desperately searched for traces of his wealth. They found loose pieces, documents, some properties, part of the stolen art. But the bulk of it had disappeared. His will stated that his fortune should pass to the Nazi Party or the German state. But both had ceased to exist in a matter of days. The state of Bavaria took control of what was left, some assets and the royalties from Mein Kampf, which for decades were redirected to charitable causes while the book was banned. In the United States, about $255,000 in royalties were confiscated and used to help refugees, a tiny fraction of what was once an immense fortune. The rest was lost among Swiss banks, private collections, black markets, and looting. Some pieces reappeared decades later at auctions. His globe for over $100,000, his red telephone for more than $200,000, and gold-plated pistols sold for millions. Relics of a regime that had left indelible scars on history. But the vast majority of his fortune evaporated. Final reflection. The irony is brutal. The man who built an empire on plunder, deception, and propaganda ended up leaving behind nothing but ruins, scattered pieces, and a legacy of horror. His wealth, which seemed indestructible, fell apart in the very chaos he had provoked. A rejected artist turned dictator who dreamed of an eternal museum for his glory, but whose fortune ended up lost, stolen, hidden, or destroyed. And perhaps that is history's greatest justice, that in the end, not even absolute power could secure the one thing he so desperately desired: immortality through wealth. And so, we come to the end of this story. If you enjoyed this journey into the darkest secrets of the Third Reich, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next episodes where we continue to unearth the mysteries of World War II.